Okay, it is probably time for an update. I meant to film this video 10 days ago, so I am sorry that it's late. If you're new here, hi, my name is Immy, and I have embarked on a low buy year because I just wanted to heal my relationship with consumption. Ever since moving to the US, my sense of enough definitely got quite warped. I just wanted to get back to a really good place where I felt comfortable with what I was spending, tried to get a little closer to financial independence or financial security in a way that made me feel like I was in control of my spending and my finances. And I just try to live as sustainably as possible. I also talk a lot about food and making my own things like knitting. I made this jumper. So if any of that interests you, feel free to subscribe, but only if you want to, and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it or found it helpful. Okay, so we're gonna recap on January because January low buy is now wrapped. If you're interested, I'm also going to share with you exactly how I make my budget template for each month at the end of this video. So if that's all you're interested in, then head to the chapters and you can go straight to it now. I've also put a bunch of chapters so you can skip to the things that you are most interested in or the things that you will find most helpful. I'm going to be talking about the number of spend, no spend, and sort of expected spend days, how much money I spent in total, expenses covered by sinking funds, and I'll explain what a sinking fund is if you don't know what that is, things and activities that I didn't spend money on that I usually would, books I read this month, a little segment I like to call This Month I Was Brave. I've realized that I've been holding myself back from doing quite a few things in my life because I'm just too scared, and I've been waiting for other people to do things with me, and well, this low buy year has really made me realize that time is short. If I want to do things in this life, then I really have to get out there and just start doing them. So we'll have a little section of This Month I Was Brave, and I'll talk about the things that I did I felt needed a little bit of courage, because also for this low buy year I am trying to put all of my attention on experiences and savings, but I also want to strike that balance where I'm spending money on experiences that give me a lot of joy and pushing me out of my comfort zone and really creating that discomfort so I can grow as a person as well as achieve the things that I just want to do. So that's why I have a focus on the kind of trying to be brave and fight through fear to do the things I want to do, as well as not spending. That's why I'm doing a low buy and not a low spend. I'll also talk about my savings, what I was able to save this month, how much money I invested, what my priorities are, and then I'll also give you an AdSense comparison if that's something that you're interested in, how much I made in AdSense last January compared to this January, and then I actually also just got the information about how much money I'll make this February, so I'll also share that with you if you are interested. I do a weekly carousel post on Instagram doing the kind of overview of that week, so week 1, 2, 3 all separately, what I spent, what I learned, all those things. And I got a lot of questions, and I have been getting questions, so I will also answer a bunch of those questions at the end. I also went through a couple of the questions that I got on some of my past videos and put those in the list as well. Some of them are why my husband and I don't share 100% of our finances. That's a really interesting one for me, and I was quite surprised at that question. So I'll definitely dive into that. What a sinking fund is, so I'll talk to you about that when I talk about what expenses were covered by a sinking fund, how my husband and I split groceries and other bills and all of that kind of stuff. And I also got a lot of questions about why I no longer want to be a full-time content creator. So if you're interested, I could definitely make a whole video about that, or I will briefly go through it in this video. And if you feel like you want more information, then I'm more than happy to go into a lot more detail about that. For me, this year is all about transparency, so I am more than happy to answer questions. I'm also happy to talk about sponsorships and how the industry has changed quite dramatically over the past however many years. I've noticed a big trend of sponsorship deals being smaller in price and also fewer. Okay, without further ado, let's just get straight into it before this video gets too long and I do not want to bore you. Okay, so as always, I track everything in this book. This is strictly for my low buy, so that I put little colors in to see which day was a spend or a no spend. So let's start with how many spend, no spend, etc. So for the whole month of January, I had 16 no spend days. This includes like literally nothing going out. So no direct debits, no grocery shops, no, nothing, literally nothing gone out. I had 13 expected spend days. These are days where bills are going out, rent, grocery days that we had assigned, and any other subscriptions or things that we put in our budget and we knew were going out. And I also had 2 unexpected spend days. So let's find out why those were unexpected, because I can't remember. Okay, so the first one, even though I was buying things like I bought protein powder, which is something I expected to do. But I also bought a book. And I've written here, oh, if you're new to this book, I use this as a kind of journal as well. So I talk about how I'm feeling about a specific day, what leads to spending money and what doesn't. And so for this day, I wrote, even though I knew I would allow myself to buy this book, especially since I wanted it for months, it still felt a little like an impulse purchase. I got on the wait list for it on my library, but I decided that I didn't want to wait for another 16 weeks. And I feel good about that. I feel good about it. Also with the protein powder, after the gym, I just decided I want to go and buy it. I'm going to go do it. And I just went straight to the shop and I bought it. Even though it's something I wanted and it's a grocery item, essentially, it's that feeling of, I want this, I'm going to get it now. That's the thing that I'm trying to change. Companies and brands have built their whole service now around convenience for us and allowing us to get things immediately. And I think it's really instilled in our society, this fast-paced consumer culture. And so I feel like companies and brands are trying to get us to stop thinking and to just start buying really quickly. And that's why they use a lot of marketing tactics to kind of, they say things like, you know, run, don't walk to get the latest, blah, blah, blah. And that really incenses me. So that's why that was a red day, because I'm really trying to fight against this buy it now, worry about the cost of it later type thing. Saturday was a red day, the 25th, but I haven't written why, so I'm not quite sure. I can't quite remember. So on week 1, I spent a total of $333.80. Week 2, I spent $1,089.06. That included my car insurance and my renter's insurance, which came from my sinking fund. So even though I spent it, it was already covered by money that I had saved each month for it. So it didn't actually come out of this month's credit card bill. Week 3 was $224.18 and week 4 was $182.21. Instead of writing down week 5, I just put this into a big overview at the end. So the total spend for the entire month, excluding the sinking fund costs like car insurance and renter's insurance, I spent $2,884.43. Groceries, I wasn't sure how much I was going to spend. I kind of planned very roughly for $300, knowing I would probably go over this, and I spent $468.90. Now that's what I spent. My husband spent the same amount. When it comes to groceries, we just split it 50-50 down the middle, even though, you know, he doesn't eat some of the same things as me. Like, to us, that doesn't matter. Groceries are something we are very happy to split 50-50. Eating out, I didn't spend any money whatsoever, which is probably why my grocery bill is slightly higher than I guess I expected. Coffee out, I spent $0. Again, probably why the grocery bill is higher. Now, yarn, I spent $63.08. I gave myself a rule that I was only allowed to buy yarn if it was for a project that I was already working on. So I wasn't allowed to buy any new yarn if it was for a new project, because I had a bunch of projects that were like ongoing and it would be ridiculous for me. I wanted to kind of have that discipline of working through all the projects that I had before moving on to something new. And it really worked for me for especially the porcelain sweater. I ended up finishing a bunch of other projects or getting the majority of the way through until I ran out of yarn before allowing myself to buy more yarn for that specific project. And I'm very happy that I did. Okay, petrol, I spent $20.45. We really didn't go, we really did not go anywhere in January. Entertainment subscriptions, I spent $26.64. Work subscriptions, $10.47. Digital storage, $6.21. Gifts, birthday gifts. This is one thing that I was not going to remove from my low buy. I like to be generous with gifts and I love gift giving. So I spent $114.76. I do set parameters for this though. I specifically ask people exactly what they want so that people are getting things that they will use and are not just random things I think that they might like. Now, I did spend $28.57 on books. That was not intended, but I did buy Half-Ass Human by Lena Norms. She's one of my friends and I really wanted to support her and her work, so I wanted to buy that book. And the other one, it's that romantasy novel. Okay, I just didn't want to wait. All right. Okay, activities and travel. I spent $56. This was mainly for parking from the airport when we were coming back from my husband's family in Michigan at Christmas, an expense I hate paying for. Internet, $28.15 or 17 cents. Phone bill, $42.27. And now the big stuff, the kind of stuff that doesn't change every month. Rent, I paid $1,200 for my share. So my husband also pays $1,200. My student loan, I pay $508. My gym is $95.50. If you're new to my channel, you might think that's expensive. I go to a climbing gym, so I have top rope, lead climbing, bouldering, a full gym, as well as yoga classes. This is 100% worth it for me. Climbing is one of my biggest hobbies, and being able to climb multiple times a week indoors whilst it's snowing outside and it's too cold, then yeah, 100% worth it. And then also my health insurance, $120 a month. My husband pays for that through his work because he has a normal full-time job, and then I just pay him back for that. And then utilities were $79.70. Okay, expenses covered by my sinking fund. So this is car insurance and renter's insurance, and I split this off separately, as I said earlier, because it is covered by money that I save every single month, and then I pay for it in one lump sum. So that was $961.84 for the car insurance that we pay every 6 months, and the renter's insurance that I pay annually. Okay, so I didn't eat out or get coffee out. Instead, I went through the cupboards and I made a really big point of checking the inventory and just seeing what was in there, making sure all the food that maybe was at the back of the cupboards was getting eaten. And that's why I've done 2 what I eat in a week on a budget videos, so you can see exactly what I've had in the cupboard and what I'm pulling out and how I'm trying to eat that up and make sure that nothing goes to waste. So I made loads of home cooked meals, went through the freezer as well, and found some good stuff. I also realized that I have spent no money on clothes for, honestly, I actually cannot remember. I think the last time I bought a t-shirt was maybe in October. I think I bought 3 just plain t-shirts that I could have for basics. But I think ever since learning to knit, I just don't think about buying clothes anymore at all. And it's given me a much greater sense of what our clothes cost in terms of labor, as well as the price of the actual materials needed to make the item. Why sustainable and ethical fashion is more expensive, and quite rightly so. And it's also given me a deeper appreciation for kind of slow fashion and slow consuming. I guess I care a little bit about the things that I wear, but I'm not like a fashionista, as you could probably tell. So yeah, I was quite surprised to find out that I hadn't really actually spent any money on clothes, and definitely in January there was nothing that I felt that I wanted. I have a winter jacket, which I'm very lucky to have. And it really sent me down a massive rabbit hole about how fast fashion just really keeps people in that consuming loop. Because if you can only afford to buy your winter jacket from a fast fashion shop, then it's only going to probably last you 1 season, and then you're going to be spending that same amount of money the next year. Okay, books I've read this month. So I read The Day the World Stopped Shopping. I also read The Psychology of Money. I also read Your Money or Your Life. And I'm currently listening to The Algebra of Wealth. I started reading Half-Assed Human by Lena Norms, and I also started reading Onyx Storm. And I actually also read the first book in that Court of Roses or whatever, Thorns and Roses and Thorns. I read that book. Okay, let me talk about my savings and my priorities before we move on to my little brave section. I saved $500 into my personal emergency fund, and I saved $100 into my joint emergency fund with my husband. I put $200 into my sinking fund and $200 into a travel fund. The travel fund is exclusively to see my family or my husband's family for Christmas and in the summer. I have also noted on my carousel post that one thing that really surprised me this month were the amount of questions I got asking me why I don't share all my finances with my husband and why I have a personal emergency fund, because surely the joint one serves the purpose. Despite being in a loving and trusting marriage, I like my independence, and part of that is being financially independent. We share a lot, but we don't need to share everything. That's what I put on there. I also put a slide on what my mood is like, because my mood changes throughout the month, and for the overall one, I put optimistic and excited, which is quite nice. Okay, money invested, $0. I didn't have anything left after my expenses and my savings to invest any money. I did say in my first video that one of my big priorities was to save for my future, but I have realized, because of how insecure my job feels at the moment, that saving a personal emergency fund is really important to me. So my priorities have changed slightly. I'm going to be paying off my student loan quickly. And I'm doing this because the interest rate on my student loan is 4.3%, which is now higher than my high yield savings account. And that's gone down to like 3.7%. This month, in February, I've actually started making 2 payments a month. So I've started making 2 $500 payments to try and get it down quickly. Because when you sign on to your student loan in the UK, you can see just as two lump sums, how much money you contributed and how much interest they have added. And it is so demoralizing when the interest is just creeping up. It's really quite painful. And I realize that I'm going to be paying off my student loan in the next 5 years anyway, so I might as well be a little bit more aggressive about it. So the top priorities are paying that student loan off and getting my personal emergency fund up to, I'd like to get it up to a year's worth of expenses. So my aim is about $30,000, and that's obviously going to take me quite a while. Okay, my AdSense comparisons. I'll put on the screen what I made in AdSense last January in 2024. I think it was just under $400. This January, I made $2,200, which is quite a big difference. And in February, you basically get your balance on the 11th of the month, and then you get paid on the 21st. So what I earn in February is kind of what I earned throughout January, and then it's settled on the 11th of February. So my February payment will be $2,588.57. which again, I think is double what I earned last February in 2024. A big goal of mine again this year, if you haven't watched any of my previous videos, is to really up my AdSense so that I can rely less on sponsors. Working with sponsors can be a really wonderful experience and it can be a really negative experience. It just depends on who you're working with. I'm also exceptionally picky about who I work with, and I say no to probably 65% of the brands that get in touch. So I would really like to reduce the reliance I have on brand deals and move that towards AdSense and also a part-time job that is nothing to do with content creation. Okay, this month I was brave. One of my big goals for this year again is also to spend my money on experiences and push my boundaries, get uncomfortable, meet new people, and just try to live aligned with the things I want to do. So I went to my first craft night on my own in Denver. I was really nervous, but I met some wonderful people and I'm really glad I went, and I'll be going every month from now on. I also really got stuck into lead climbing. I have been pushing the grades that I've been climbing. I find it really scary, especially when you're clipping the clips and they're quite like here and you can't get it. You've got loads of slack and then, yeah, that scares me. I also made myself take 3 medium-sized falls so I get more comfortable. And the weird thing is that they started to become quite fun, which is so... it's so weird for me. Another thing that I did this month was I went on my first solo camping trip in the US. Now I've done a lot of adventuring, a lot of solo hiking, or I did a bike packing trip in the UK on my own. But moving to the US, I felt like I lost a lot of my independence and I lost a lot of my confidence as well. So I've been slowly trying to do little things like take a lead fall, go to a social event on my own, and then leading up to bigger things like going on this solo road trip and camping on my own. And that was a really big step for me. And it's funny because it's an experience, so I was going to be a bit more relaxed about spending money, but I actually spent only money on petrol, $15 on my campsite, and then I allowed myself to get a coffee from Best Slope Coffee in Fruita. That's just on the border of Utah and Colorado. If you've never been there and you're on your way there, you should definitely check it out. It's one of my favorite coffee shops that we always stop by, and I just like to support local shops, which is again why I'm doing a low buy year instead of, you know, a no buy or a no spend, because I still want to be supporting local, sustainable, eco-friendly, small artists, you know, those kind of things. So I spent $9 on 2 coffees on that trip. I was really proud of myself. Yeah, I'm really grateful to myself for pushing myself to go and do that on my own, because now it doesn't seem so scary, and I'm already planning some pretty big trips this year and next year. And it all starts with one little step of being, you know, I was a bit scared and then I realized it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. So now I can push myself a bit more. If you have any questions about any of what I have discussed just now, please leave them in the comments below, because as I said, transparency is the aim of the game this year. So if you want to know anything, please let me know. Now, questions. Why my husband and I don't share all of our finances. Pretty much everything, rent, groceries, bill, they are all pretty much split 50-50. Yeah, no, they are. They are 100% split 50-50. And then this is why we have a balance sheet, so that we do all of our spending on a joint credit card, because we do a lot of traveling together and our credit card specifically gets travel points. And it's very expensive for us to go visit my family. So it's nice to be able to build those points up together and then spend those on the flights to go home at Christmas or in the summer. We do all of our own spending, keep a tally or a sheet so that we can see everything that we've bought, and then at the end of the month we simply both just pay our share. I think financial independence from your spouse is very important because you never want to be in a situation where you don't have any control over your circumstances or your money. What if he turns out to be a terrible person in 10 years time and he has control over all of our money? I wouldn't be able to have any authority to leave. What if he became really controlling? What if I became really controlling and he couldn't do anything because I didn't want him to? There are just a multitude of reasons as to why it's important to have your own money, but at the very base of it, I earn money. I want to do whatever I want with that money. As long as my bills are paid, as long as our joint savings accounts are, you know, we're both putting in the shares that we've agreed to, then whatever I do with the rest of my money is completely up to me. And I don't want to be asking for money to do the things that I want to do. I think part of the reason why we never argue and have very, very few issues is because we're both very independent, and then we come together as these like whole humans that can just share everything that we want to share, but then also have autonomy over the things that we want to just keep to ourselves. Every relationship is different. You do whatever you want, but I would suggest opening a savings account and having some of your own money for just in case. Another question I got was how we split bills, but I've kind of already covered this. Everything is 50-50. I have no interest in splitting things differently. We both earn pretty much the same amount of money, so what's fair is fair, I guess. So I also got a lot of questions about me no longer wanting to be a content creator full time. And it all goes back to the idea of sponsorship. It's not that I don't enjoy creating content. I love it, and I would still do it even if I wasn't paid to do it, and even if it wasn't my job. But as I said, the industry is definitely changing a lot, and I want to have a lot more flexibility over choosing who I work with, but that's not always possible when you're not getting as many sponsorship deals. I also prefer the videos that I create that aren't sponsored. As I've gotten older, I didn't mind the not knowing how much money I was going to make and managing my money and things like that when I was a few years younger. But now that I'm getting to a point in my life where we are considering buying a house, we are considering having children, these are all things that make me feel less secure as a content creator. And I never want to be in a position where I don't feel like I can earn money and contribute to a financially stable household. I mean, even just the idea of getting a dog or a cat, like those are still extra responsibilities where we have to pay for vet bills or pet insurance and all of that kind of stuff. And I just want to make sure that I'm in a position where I'm feeling more secure. And with sponsorships and with content creation, unless you're always at the top of your game, it's not likely that you're going to feel 100% secure. So I have actually been applying for jobs, and I've been applying for a few part-time jobs, but it is scary when you've been a full-time content creator for I think it's been 6 years. I left my storyboard job in 2018, so maybe 7 years coming up. So yeah, that's a big reason why I'm thinking about moving away from content creation as a full-time job. I would still create content, but you would just get less sponsorships interrupting your videos. Okay, so now for those of you who are actually interested in my little Excel spreadsheet or my Google Sheets spreadsheet of how I track everything, I will show you how I make that if you are interested in making one for yourself. Okay, I'm going to show you my spreadsheet, and then I will show you how I populate it and then how to make it. Okay, so this is what my sheet looks like. I have one box up here, which is my whole January in review. And then, well, let's do this one for February. And then I have this is kind of the overview. So I've got my non-essentials, essentials, debt, sinking fund, house, travel fund, investments, and then savings, emergency funds. And then just below it, I have all my subcategories that I might spend money on. So for me, it's going to be things like groceries, yarn, petrol, entertainment subscriptions, gifts, books, movie rentals, all that kind of stuff. Student loan, gym. And then all the sums of these that will be in planned and spent, these will populate these. So let's say for non-essentials, entertainment subscription, that's probably a non-essential. So let's say it was $20. And then non-essential books, let's say I spent $10. Okay, so let's say I planned $200 for my non-essentials. I'll put $200 here. And then for spent, I will just go equals sum, open brackets. And then from this column down here, I'm going to highlight anything that I think is a non-essential. And then I will close brackets and press enter. And then you can see here, this is how much I have spent, and this is how much I have planned. You can also add in a percentage if you want to. It's not necessary if you don't want to, but it's also a little bit fun. For this, you're just going to go equals spent divided by planned, and then press enter. So I've spent 15%. We don't need this many decimals, so I'm just going to go back to, there we go. Now you can see 15%. I've added in average spend here, so that's not going to be that helpful for me for the first couple of months, but it will be probably a few months in. But then remaining, if you want this, so you can see how much you're on track for spending all of what you've planned, or if you've gone over, you literally just go equals planned minus spent. So I have $170 remaining for my non-essentials. Okay, before we populate the rest of this, let me show you how to make this if this is something you want. So let's go over to here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. Let's take out average spend for now. So let's just do 5 columns. So we're going to highlight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to go to this button and press merge cells. Let's go March month in review. And then I like this to be in the middle. So I'm going to do my horizontal line and I'm just going to put it center. And then we're going to give it a nice color with a fill color. So let's go with a blue. Okay, so now you have your month in review. I'm just going to highlight the 5 columns below it and do the same color. And this is going to be our categories. So we'll have category here. Category, if I can spell it correctly. Then we'll do planned, spent, percentage, and then we're going to do remaining. You can also add an average spend in here now if you want to as well. So your categories, we're just going to, these are my categories, but you can obviously put in whatever you want. If you can see that this has gone over, what I'm going to do is just go to the middle of these two and just double click, and then it just stretches it out to as far as it is. Then I'm going to highlight this whole thing, plus an extra row at the bottom, and we're going to go to a color, let's go to a light blue, and then just to create a little border. And then under my last category, I'm going to write total. And then we're just going to highlight those and put those into a color just to separate them out. That's not the color I wanted. There we go. And it's basically the same thing you do under here. So then we have our new categories, and then you write whatever categories you like. These are going to be mine. And if you want, again, you can highlight the whole thing and just put a little border around it. Okay, now you have to decide how much you want to plan for everything. So let's say my non-essentials, let's put $200. My essentials, well, let's put them in because my essentials are $508 for my student loan. My gym is $95.50. My utilities, I'm going to put $100 because they change every month. My health insurance is $120. My rent is $1,200. And my phone bill is about $43. Now, as you can see, these are just numbers right now. So I'm going to highlight this whole column as well as spent. And then I'm going to go to format, number. Then I'm going to go down to US dollar, or you can go to accounting. Let's go with accounting. So that's all. So now every time I write in something, it will automatically give that. Okay. Let's do the same with this one. So I'm going to go to format, number, accounting. So if you highlight all of these, it will show you in the right-hand corner how much those add up to. So that's about $2,066. So let's put $2,100. That's going to be my essentials. But then I've realized I have debt under here. So actually, instead of $2,100, I'm just going to highlight everything except for the debt. So that's really about $1,600. So in my debt, I'm going to put $508. That's the debt that I have. That's the month I pay. And then for my sinking fund, house, travel, all of these are chosen savings funds. So for my sinking fund, I did start doing $200, but I'm actually going to do $250 to cover things like oil changes and other things for my car. For my house fund, I can't actually afford to save any money towards that, so I'm going to do 0. It's also not a priority for me right now. Travel fund, I put $200. Investments, again, it's something that I can't afford to do right now. And then savings for emergency fund, I'm going to put $600 because $500 is for my personal and $100 is for my joint. Now for total, I'm just going to go equals, sum, open brackets, and then highlight all of those, close brackets, and then plus enter. So my total is $3,358. That's for all my non-essentials, my essentials, my debt, and all of the money that I would like to save. So this is planned and idealized. Now, spent. For things like non-essentials, okay, so you're just going to go sum, open, and then make sure that you highlight the spent column, not the planned column. So yarn, entertainment, books, movie rentals, all of those are going to be non-essential. And I'm going to press enter. And let's say $50 is what I've spent here, then it will populate here automatically. And then over on this corner, we'll just go equals planned minus spent, enter. And then you'll be able to see here. And that is pretty much what I do. So sometimes I also have these two columns, planned income and actual income. That's more important for me as someone who is self-employed, but it might be important for you as well. So say we have planned $4,000 for the month, but our actual income is $3,200. But it's helpful if you can minus these from these. So you might realize there's a discrepancy between how much you want to spend and how much your income is. So then I might have to go over here and be like, okay, well, this month I clearly can't put in $600, so what about $400? And then that brings me under my total spend. And that's pretty much it for my balance sheet. Having the subcategories and having everything feed into this little box up here is really helpful. I also have a year in review, and I have this for each week that I have spent money for. That's more to simply help me keep on track with the things that I am putting up on Instagram, my carousel posts. But it's also really helpful if you just want to see week by week how much you're spending. That was quite a long tutorial. I like to do things nice and slowly because if you want to see how it's actually, working out and how to actually do it, I find tutorials that are too quick to be very annoying. So I hope you like that. And also you can always put it in 2x speed if you have to go over things and you just want to watch it quickly. But I hope that that was useful. At the bottom of my Google sheet, I just have a sheet for everything. So January, and then on a separate sheet, I'll have February, and then a separate sheet March. And if you just go to the bottom and you can just press duplicate and it will duplicate it for you, and then you can just remove all the numbers that are actually in there unless you want to keep the planned numbers. Just remove the spent, and then it basically has done all the work for you. So yeah, I hope that you found that helpful. And if there are any other things that you want me to show you how to use, or you just want someone else to do the research for you and just show you, I'm happy to do that too. I love learning new things like this, so it's been really fun and enjoyable just to figure out how to track things and do it in a way that, is helpful, practical, but also looks nice and makes me want to go and fill it out. If there is anything that I didn't cover in this video that you want to know about, then please let me know in the comments below and I will happily answer those for you either in the comments or expand on those in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Feel free to subscribe if you like this content and you want to see more, or if you're interested in food and other sustainable aspects of my life, then feel free to subscribe. And please give the video a thumbs up if you did like it, because it really helps to support my channel. Okay, check out this video if you want to see more.